What is with attorneys thinking they're their clients' PR people? Last week, we saw Elaine Bredehoft get on a bunch of morning shows and stunt for Amber Heard after a major loss in the Johnny Depp-Amber Heard trial in Virginia. But she's not the only one. Deshaun Watson, quarterback for the Cleveland Browns and former QB for the Houston Texans, he's currently in battle in a civil lawsuit with at least 20 plaintiffs alleging SA and misconduct allegations. And his attorneys decided to make a couple of appearances on his behalf. The first one went on Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, where they were profiling two of the plaintiffs in the Deshaun Watson case, and she tried to provide a defense to Deshaun Watson, alleging that one of the plaintiffs in the case, the earliest plaintiff in the case, Ashley Solis, or one of the first two, she had reached out to at least one other attorney before Tony Buzbee, and that this means that the case might have been weak to other attorneys. And two, that all the plaintiffs in the case are represented by one attorney, Tony Buzbee. And both these arguments, while they sound great, are pretty specious. One, it's very common for a client to reach out to multiple attorneys before they settle on one. For instance, you might find them through the internet or through a friend, and thus you might not be reaching out to an attorney who practices that area of law. You might reach out to a real estate attorney who doesn't do litigation. You might reach out to a personal injury attorney who has no familiarity with criminal matters or intentional tort or SA litigation. And again, that's just very common. Before you settle on somebody, you get to do your research on who's your lawyer. That's your sword and shield. I'm sure Deshaun Watson met with multiple attorneys before hiring Rusty Hardin. Two, the argument that there's over 20 plaintiffs all represented by one attorney makes sense in common defendant litigation with a similar fact pattern, which exists here. You have Deshaun Watson, who is alleged to have had SA allegations and misconduct allegations with multiple people who he hired to be his massage therapist or to give him a massage. And thus, that all kind of fits, and that's a very similar fact pattern with very similar evidence. And also, Tony Buzbee was one of the first public names associated with this case, and you knew he was willing to take it on. So when women heard that their story was not unique, that this wasn't just a misunderstanding, that there was a pattern of conduct that kept on growing, and that their story was not in and of itself a one-off, they probably reached out to the one attorney they knew that would take the case instead of having to go look for their own and search through, again, doing the same process that maybe a Solis did. So that argument really isn't that strong, and maybe if you're not going to make a strong argument publicly, just don't make one at all, which Deshaun Watson's other attorney, Rusty Hardin, probably should have did before he went on a radio show last week and said it's not illegal to get a happy ending after a massage as long as you don't pay extra for it afterwards. Like, Rusty, shut up. That just makes it sound like your client treats massage therapists as sex workers.
If it has happened, it's not a crime, okay? Unless you are paying somebody extra or so to give you some type of sexual activity, it's not a crime.